Sean, you talked on Monday about how when it comes to like handling outside noise, or whatever, that it's not just your leadership that matters; it's the player-driven leadership as well. How does the process go on a regular basis with that? Are there formal meetings you have with them? Is it a situation where you're, text when necessary, drop? I mean, do you say to them, hey, this is what I want the theme to be this week? Just kind of generally, how does that work between you and the player leadership?
Well, I think they take a lot of initiative on their own, first and foremost, and then we have one meeting in particular during a week where we'll get together. Sometimes it's in various forms. There's other, via text or just interactions on a Monday or Tuesday of a normal week where I'll see them in the hallway, one or two of them, and mention some things to them. So, but overall, they're pretty proactive on it.
That's kind of where I want to go too. I mean, how much? I assume at this point, with how long the leaders have been in the group, that you probably don't need to do much interacting. They can kind of handle it on their own.
I count on those guys a lot, I think, but you're always developing leaders, and then you're always developing the next group of leaders as well, because sometimes guys graduate, and so you got to have always developing players, always developing leaders as well.
Hey, Sean, from a deep defensive perspective, is this as big a switch as you could make from one week to the next, having to defend Mahomes in that offense and now the Derrick Henry offense this week?
Yeah, that's good awareness on your part, Sal. Yeah, I mean, they're two great players in different capacities, right, this week in the run game. And so, he's probably the best, if not one of the best running backs in the NFL. So
kind of a throwback offense, right? I mean, this is not the offense we see in the 21st century much, such a running back dependent offense. Would that be fair to say?
They do. I think more than anything, they do what works for them. So we do what works for us. That's what you kind of do as a team. You take your personnel and put them in position. I think their coordinator, Todd Downing, does a great job of that, as well as Coach Vrabel.
Sean, along those lines, your run defense this year, I think it's top 3 or 4 in the league. It seems every week it's kind of delivered. What has been, in your mind, the driving force there to make that run defense click the way it has?
Yeah, up front. That's where it starts. That's where good defense starts, run or pass, Jay. And to your question, everything starts up front with our defensive line.
I understand from a coaching standpoint, the fundamentals of tackling remain the same regardless of who the player is. But with some of that physical, that big, and especially with his stiff arm, are there any other adjustments you have to make when trying to bring him down? Derrick Henry.
Yeah, no, we try and put together a good plan every week of the best way to go about that. In this case, tackle Henry there. So he's, like you said, John, he's a tough guy to bring down. He's good outside, he's good inside the tackles. He's fast, and he pulls away from DBs when he has the ball in his hand. So yeah, it's a full plan, if you will, and making sure we understand not only how he runs, but also how to get him down.
This seems to be the Titans seem to be next on the Bills' redemption tour after having lost them last year. Is there any, and this defense seems to want to prove itself that it was better than last year. Is there any lingering memories of how you guys got stiff-armed by Derrick last year? And the Titans?
Well, I think we get reminded of it every time I see highlights. I see that play, and then look, they give them credit. They outperformed us. They outcoached us. They outplayed us. They're a good football team.
Sean, I guess generally speaking, in your 5th year and Leslie Frazier's and Dable's 4th year, how much versatility do you have, both defensively and offensively, to put new things in, try new things, because you've been around and guys know your system and they kind of know what to expect? Do you find that at play during these games even?
Yeah, you try and pick your spots. But, yeah, the continuity piece, John, to your question, adds to the ability to do some of that week to week or year to year, for sure.
You guys switch almost effortlessly personnel now. It's not even offensively.
Offensively. Yeah. Well, again, you always want to use what you have at your disposal, for lack of a better way of saying it. You take what you have, you try and develop a well-rounded plan and use the resources, and it's hard for me to watch when good players are standing on the sideline, right? I mean, when we're not using them all. So I think that's the responsibility of us as coaches to use what we have.
Last year, that game at Tennessee, obviously every loss sucks, I understand that. But was that a particular game where you just really just flushed it? Because it was just one of those nights you didn't do well in anything that night. Is that one of those games where you really just flush it immediately rather than hem and haw over it?
Well, I think just overall, probably no, because you can learn from those experiences. And I mean, we weren't very disciplined in that game, detail oriented. We didn't take care of the football. I mean, it was like I told you, they outperformed us.
Sean, in light of the league-wide news with John Gruden, I know you're involved in a lot of committees and initiatives of making this league more inclusive, and sort of branding Kim Pagula. So from that standpoint, are there things you see from this past week that need to happen for there to be meaningful change from that for either teams or the league as a whole?
Give me a more specific question to that. That's a pretty broad.
I guess kind of that broad of just, is there anything this week that you think the conversation should steer towards within teams or the league of changing from this?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not up here on any type of grandstand saying that that I'm perfect or what we do is perfect. You just try and do what's right. I'm not going to get into, I don't know, to be honest with you, everything about those situations respectfully, so I'm going to refrain from commenting on those. But just overall, we try and do what's right. But again, I'm not perfect and we're not perfect in how we do things. We just try and do the best we can, and always try and include everyone and all that type of stuff. And obviously that situation is very serious, and so we respect that.
Sean, I think you touched on it earlier in the week, but how have you seen Cole Beasley lately with the past couple games not getting maybe as many catches or as many targets, or being as involved as he we're maybe used to seeing? How have you seen him kind of react to that and approach that?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a pro. It's hard when you don't get the football, and I get that. There's only one football to go around, and sometimes it's not just one game, it's 2 games, it's 3 games, and how are you going to react? And that's some of what we look for in the character of our players, because you're going to go through, Sal mentioned, some adversity earlier in his question, right? You're going to go through some adverse times in your career or during a season, and how a group of people can stick together, in this case with Cole, hang together, stay with the plan, stay bought in, knowing that your time is going to come, I think is all part of the process of a season and a team being a real team. And to this point, Cole has been very professional in his way that he's handled it, the last couple of games in particular, and I expect the same moving forward. So we'll just see where this week goes.
The Titans added Julio Jones this offseason. How does he change the dynamic of the offense?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their offense, they've got a great combination of skill in the backfield, skill outside, which makes them very hard to defend that way. So, it's going against him in the division for years in the NFC South. I mean, he's as good as there is out there, along with, what they have on the other side with AJ there. So, they've got weapons for sure.
As much as you coach situational football out here with your players, and I realize the coaches are heavily invested in it when it happens out here on the field, does it go far more extensive than that with your coaches indoors, like in terms of planning? Or is that more of an off-season thing, or is it a week-to-week thing?
Give me the first part of your question again, Chris.
Situational football, game and clock management.
Yeah. No, we try and do the best we can. I mean, it's I can tell you it's always a challenge. It's easier when you're watching it on TV, even when I watch it on TV, and another coach is out there. But, it's harder when you're going through it and there's 10 seconds to process a lot of information and then make the right call for your team and try and do the best you can. Mark Lubick, Dennis Locke. I count on those guys a lot, and we're always researching different situations that we can learn from around the league and try and make sure we grow from those situations as well.
Try to be as pre-programmed as possible with the answers.
Yep.
Knowing you probably can't cover all the bases, but cover as many as you can.
Right. Yeah, we try to. But you think you know the game, then every year or sometimes weekly a new thing pops up that you try and at least talk about. Like we'll meet as a staff today, and part of our meeting, tomorrow will be about new situations that popped up around the league. So, and part of it's educating the staff also, not just us 3 or 4 with the coordinators, but the staff as well.
On that note, do you try to watch any of the Sunday games live when you have the Monday night game?
Yeah, I'll watch it. College, because the situations tend to be rather similar, even though it's college versus pro, or sometimes even high school. Things pop up in high school games that you hear about that you try and learn from or talk about a little bit more.
When's the last time you had a high school game that you...
I go to the high school games around here, Orchard Park from time to time, and so we're always trying to learn. I think that's the cool part about it, trying to evolve, is you're always learning from different experiences.
Sean, given how tricky hamstring injuries can be and Matt's own history with hamstring injuries, you even said you protected him this past weekend.
Yeah.
How tempting is it to shut him down with a bye week coming up next week?
You talking about with Matt now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, Joe, I'm aware of that's there with the bye week, but I want to focus in on today and see where he is relative to today and this week then.
You were asked about Greg on Monday, but I noticed Harrison Phillips was one of the first people to share a congratulatory message about him after the announcement that he won AFC Defensive Player of the Week. You know, he's a guy that, hasn't been active for a couple weeks. Is that an example of a guy that kind of means something, even maybe if they're not doing it right now on the field?
Yeah, again, that's what you look for out of your guys. Just checking my time here. It's a journey every year to, as a team, as an individual, as a coach. There's going to be weeks where you're feeling really good, you're in the lineup, and there's moments when I didn't play to my ability, didn't coach to my ability, and then you got to reset and stay professional and stay positive and continue to put the team first in that very unselfish way. So I'm very appreciative of Harrison's approach that way, as well as many others.